Welcome to Guild Wars 2 Goldlocked, a challenge series where I am exploring the world of Tyria one zone at a time. In each zone, I have to earn 50 gold exclusively in that map in order to move on to the next one. I am a Norn warrior, traveling the lands, killing any monster, completing any event, and overcoming any challenge that I can in order to earn gold in maps that weren't originally designed for gold making in mind. Today, we are traveling across the snowy landscape of the Snowden Drifts that feature many challenges for us to overcome. Just like with any map, I wanted to take some time to earn map completion in the Snowden Drifts while spending a lot of time just checking out and experimenting with a few different ideas for making gold that we can dive further into in a bit. I also wanted to continue as much of my story as I can with the maps we currently have unlocked, and we were waiting for the Snowden Drifts in order to do that. As we explore, I want to talk about one aspect of wealth in Guild Wars 2 that some newer players struggle with. When we look at wealth in Guild Wars 2, it is very similar to real life in many ways, where in unprofessional, inaccurate, and simplistic terms, you have both liquid wealth and material assets. The combination of the two is your personal net worth. Liquid wealth is the amount of money you have sitting in your bank account or like in a bag under your bed or whatever. Material assets are all the things you own, from bigger things like a house or car to smaller things like kitchen utensils or a pair of headphones. While you can't necessarily directly buy something like a new computer with your house, though the idea of trading does exist, if you wanted a new computer, you would need to purchase it with your liquid wealth. And if you don't have enough liquid wealth to cover the cost of that computer, you can't legally acquire it. But what you could do is sell other things you own to make up the amount of money you need for that computer, or like go to work and get a paycheck. Every single thing I just said is directly true inside of Guild Wars 2 as well. You have both liquid wealth, as in the amount of gold you currently have in your wallet, like how we are just over 150 gold right now. But we also have material assets like the iron ore and softwood logs we are getting around the map. While we could potentially trade the iron ore for something like a legendary, that doesn't really happen, just like how you normally wouldn't trade a couple thousand computers for a new house in real life. But if we don't have enough gold to buy that legendary, we could sell all of the iron ore that we currently have in our material storage to help make up the missing gold that we need for a legendary. Or we could go out in the world and do events to get some gold, teleport players to the end of jumping puzzles as a mesmer, or any number of different things. A lot of newer players look at their wallet in Guild Wars 2 and lament about how little gold they have, without realizing that they actually have a lot more gold than they actually think, in the form of materials hiding in their material storage or in other places like their bank and character inventories. There is a balance to using materials for what you need or selling them for gold, but largely if you want to make gold in Guild Wars 2, a lot of that comes from selling the materials you gain. In fact, when we look at most in-game farms and pretty much everything I have done in this series thus far, the main way you make gold is by selling random materials you get through those farms. A Drizzlewood Coast farm train could hypothetically net you 42 gold an hour in ideal conditions, but if you go through that farm train and don't sell any of the materials you get, you will be way under that 42 gold target. So the moral of the story, need gold, sell some mats. As I've gone through the Snowden Drifts and done exactly that while getting 100% map completion, I can head over to the trading post and collect my grand total of 2 gold, 85 silver, and 44 copper, plus an additional bonus 1 gold and 62-ish silver from other drops. A pretty successful haul from the start of the map. Now it's time to check all of the gathering nodes in this map. With both nodes and also general mob drops, this map is going to be pretty similar to Diessa Plateau, as it is a level 15 to 25 map featuring many tier 2 materials and a few tier 1 materials, but with a hint of the Wafer of Foothills with some Shiver Peaks related plants that are available. As for my experience in this map, it was pretty okay. There is a strawberry garden in this map, which is super fun, and I realized that there are actually only 3 in the core game, with this one, the one we saw in Diessa Plateau, and then 1 in Kessex Hills. There's also 1 in the Memory of Old Lion's Arch, then a few others that have been added to the game in newer maps after launch. There are also a ton of rich ore nodes in this map that definitely helps us out, and there felt like there were just a ton more ore nodes in this map than previous maps. In fact, it felt like there were more nodes in general than in previous maps, and it felt a little overwhelming at times trying to get everything. But in the end, it took me about 38 minutes to go across the entire map and harvest everything that I could find. I got a ton of materials, with some big winners being 96 iron ore selling for about 1 gold, 11 mushrooms selling for about 34 silver, 3 sunstone nuggets selling for about 38 silver, 12 black peppercorn selling for about 30 silver, 15 onions selling for about 31 silver, and a bunch of other materials including 71 softwood logs, 74 silver ore, and 12 strawberries. With everything coming out to a total of 3 gold, 15 silver, and 29 copper, which is equivalent to roughly 4 gold and 97 silver an hour. Pretty good, but we are still slightly beat by the Plains of Ashford. Now, another interesting idea for making gold that is by no means optimal, but is something that will just naturally happen over time, are achievement points. There are some achievements in the game that I'm sure could specifically be obtained to help get us a little bit of gold, but every 500 achievement points we earn, we are going to get some gold. As I hit 500 achievement points by randomly killing some centaurs and progressing my Centaur Slayer achievement, I got 1 gold. And every 2500 achievement points we get, we actually get 5 gold instead of 1, and every 5000 achievement points we get, we actually get 400 gems that we could convert into gold if we wanted. Getting achievements is definitely something that I love a lot and have spent a lot of time doing, but it is by no means a reliable way to get a lot of gold. But it can be a nice small boost here and there as we play through the game. And if we are getting close to an achievement point milestone and we happen to need a little bit of gold, we could go out of our way to get some achievement points so we could get that gold. And we could combine this into farms. I remember a long time ago I came to the Snowden Drifts to kill griffins for the Griffin Slayer achievement because I just wanted to complete that achievement. And we could pair some griffin killing with getting my Griffin Slayer achievement if I really wanted, but I don't think griffins are going to net us the most gold. What will give us some more gold and actually help us progress the Slayer achievement are the Sons of Svanir. Returning to an idea that we explored in the Wayfarer Foothills, let's re-explore this farm, but now with some slightly higher level Sons of Svanir. There are a couple of bigger spots featuring Sons of Svanir, namely the Jormabak Stead as well as Drakentilt, and these two areas are only okay. They are kind of small and a little uncomfortable to navigate around, but do feature a relatively consistent amount of Sons of Svanir. But in the Jormabak Stead specifically, there is a task that a lot of players will do involving killing these Sons of Svanir, and then there can be other complications like when the Sons of Svanir happen to be a Wizard's Vault weekly objective. Our primary goal, of course, are small icy bags, and after half an hour of farming Sons of Svanir, I got 18 small icy bags, which when worth about 5.5 silver each, came out to about 1 gold. And combined with everything else that I got, gave me a grand total of 1 gold, 33 silver, and 47 copper, or about 2 gold and 67 silver per hour, which is basically exactly the same, albeit slightly better than what we got doing this type of farm in the Wayfarer Foothills. Now there are a ton of mobs all around this map, and I'm strangely enough facing a pretty similar problem to what we experienced in the Diasa Plateau, where there just really aren't that many interesting mobs with good loot tables for us to find. There are, of course, a bunch of Moa, and they're just as good as any other map, but other than the Sons of Svanir, I was really struggling with finding a decent mob farm that is above the natural normal that you get from killing any mob in the game. I thought both the Grawl and the Centaurs would potentially be a little interesting, but both, especially at this level range, weren't really worthwhile for us. On top of all that, and unlike the Diasa Plateau, there aren't too many interesting things for us to look at in this map. We saw Rindak Signet and the Catapult in Diasa Plateau that are both interesting farms that aren't just mob killing or node harvesting, and the Snowden Drifts doesn't really have anything like that, and I think that is unfortunate, but is kind of expected with most core Tyria maps. And as a result, this entire map is kind of just boring, where I can spend a lot of time killing Moas and spend a little bit of time killing some Sons of Svanir and harvesting some nodes to make gold. But maybe let's take some time to look at some other random stuff. As I researched this map, I found someone from 2012 talking about how farming the Arctidus in Snowden Drifts is one of the best low-level farms in the game. 2012 Guild Wars 2 was definitely interesting. We didn't know too many things, and according to the prices listed in the video, this farm is definitely not going to be super good in accordance to today's prices. But upon spending half an hour killing Arctidus here, I actually had a pretty relaxing time and got 11 slabs of red meat, selling for about 25 silver, 14 vials of thin blood, selling for about 4 silver, and 24 small fangs, selling for about 29 silver, with everything else combined adding up to a total of 1 gold, 3 silver, and 85 copper, or about 2 gold and 8 silver an hour. Honestly, not too bad, but definitely lower than pretty much everything else we have done. And I think this shows how important loot tables are. The slabs of red meat and small fangs were the biggest drops we got, and if the Arctidus didn't drop them, or dropped items worth even less than that, this farm would be even worse. Likewise, if the Arctidus dropped more valuable items, we are obviously going to be getting more gold. This is why the MOAs in lower level zones are so good, because slabs of poultry meat are consistently a high value item that you can get from any level MOA. As we look ahead to higher level zones, we will hopefully be able to look at even more types of mobs that drop different items, as we may begin to discover more higher value items compared to stuff like tiny claws that sell for a low 5 copper. And I think getting Snowden Drifts is fantastic, just because we are now unlocking the path to get to some higher level zones that should be especially fun to explore. But first, we got to get to 50 gold, which is going to require for me to do a lot of work with what we have done so far. And as I do all of that, I want to highlight 4 random small things that I found in the map while exploring through it in depth, and I haven't highlighted in past videos, and I don't plan to highlight in future videos. First is Drowning Moon. This is just a random iceberg wolf, but is interesting because it is a specifically named mob. We don't see too many named mobs in the game that don't serve too much of a purpose, but to just exist, and this one is pretty cool with its name that is very similar sounding to a Coden name, which makes me think that maybe this wolf once belonged to a Coden and then became corrupted, but we don't have confirmation about that. Second is the Beak of Darkness. This is an incredibly interesting event that begins by finding a wounded Moa at one of 3 different spawn locations around the northeastern part of the map. Attacking the wounded Moa will cause it to flee, and after a short moment, the Beak of Darkness alongside 2 dark-winged defenders will appear to attack you, and you can defeat them to complete the event, which this entire idea is super fun and is a great little event hidden in the map that even unlocks a special merchant. But these Moa are black Moa, which are incredibly rare to find, and only a few exist in the entire game. Third is the Polar Bear Cave south of Snowhawk Landing. This is kind of just a random spot in the map that I don't really remember existing, but I'm sure I passed through here before. It's just a location that you don't really ever have to come to, but there is actually a lot of stuff going on with different mobs, decorations, and even several harvesting nodes. I do love the polar bear sitting at the fire at the start of the cave. And fourth is the slab of Moa meat. This is an item that drops from Moas in the Snowden Drifts and serves literally no purpose. This was most likely going to be used for some sort of event or task located in this map, but it never actually made it into the game, but the drop still exists and can be obtained to this day. And I actually seem to only get this drop from the Moa around Durgar's homestead over by Ice and Fall Lake. But as I spend so much time running around this map and doing so many different things, I can finally return to a trading post to collect the last bit of gold I need, which there is actually one at High Pass Haven in Hunter's Pitfalls, which I always forget about. But this collection is special because it will take us over the 200 gold threshold needed for the Gold Hoarder achievement, giving us a bunch of achievement points, but also the title Golden, a title that I think I will probably rep for the rest of the series, and with it, perhaps some new dyes to match the theme. To quickly look at some stats, I played for 40 hours and 24 minutes with 12 deaths, and we are now level 74 with a total of 200 gold earned. And of course, with having earned 50 gold, we can begin to look towards the next map. We are now level 72, which means Frostgorge Sound is 100% on the table, and it could be the map we go to next. We still have the Iron Marches and Blizzard Steppes connected back to the Plains of Ashford, but with Snowden Drifts, we can now potentially go to the Gandharan Fields or to Lornar's Pass, both of which would also unlock Lion's Arch should we get one of them. Snowden Drifts also has an entrance to the Frostgorge Sound, and I thought maybe we could weigh that map more heavily since we have 2 connecting maps to it, but I think it's simpler to just have each map be an equal chance. Out of all 5 of these maps, which one do I want the most? Well, I don't really care because each map is pretty cool in its own way and are also higher level than the 4 maps we currently have done. I think Gendarin Fields would probably be the easiest map to complete, with Lornar's Pass being the most interesting because of how much potential there is in this map given how big it is. But enough talking. Let's see which map the wheel will pick. And to the Iron Marches we go. While the Snowden Drifts was pretty boring, I think this map will definitely be much more interesting to complete, with a lot of stuff to explore in this level 50 to 60 map. I am pretty excited to explore some slightly higher level gold making opportunities and see what exactly we can discover. But of course, that is all for the next episode. See you then.